Welcome to the Unitarians of Lake Norman. To everyone here in person today, and to everyone who is visiting our service from home. In the words and spirit of Eric Bannon, a well-known, at least in Unitarian circles, singer-songwriter, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came to be in this community, you are welcome here. Our members walk many different paths to find meaning, purpose, and beauty in life. What unites us is our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Sandy McFeely, and I've been an active member of this congregation for at least 10 years. Mike Alec is our musician today, with Eddie Gunn to ably assist and accompany. Our minister, Pat Jobe, is our speaker today. He will talk about the power of sacred presence to change lives. His sources range from what can be seen from the Hubble Telescope to the view through an atomic microscope, and does include artificial intelligence. As so often happens, Reverend Pat may be onto something. UUs typically start every service and many other events by lighting a chalice and saying what we call chalice lighting words. Today's chalice lighting words are part of a longer prayer created by a 20th century UU minister, Jacob Trapp. They are in your order of service, and I invite you to join me in saying them. To worship is to work with dedication and with skill. It is to pause from work. To worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. And now Reverend Pat will open our service, and then Autumn Weathers will tell us what the kids will be doing today, and she will then invite us to stand and sing number 123, Spirit of Life, as she leads the children out.
It has been mentioned to me by the board of trustees of this organization and by others that folks would like to learn a little something about UU history. And so in that spirit today, I'm offering you 2 minutes of UU history. Please do not jump up and run out at the mention of the word history. If you truly love history, if you're truly hungry for lots and lots of history, go to uua.org and wander around in the search engine of the UUA's website. They've got more than you can read in a lifetime. But here's 2 minutes. 2 of the most famous and most interesting Unitarians who ever lived, the second and third presidents of the United States, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, were among the most devoted believers in 2 entirely different views of God and church and faith. John Adams was a Congregationalist from New England who thought slavery was a terrible sin and believed in much the same kind of God in the clouds who answers some prayers and fails to answer others. He lost one of his children to breast cancer and another to alcoholism, but he did not lose his faith. He held to a very traditional view, regardless of how life buffeted him. Jefferson, on the other hand, might lay claim to the origins of what we call Unitarianism today. He was extremely skeptical that the Jesus of the New Testament was all that he was claimed to be. Like another of our Unitarian ancestors, the Reverend Ellery Channing, Jefferson didn't see that it was necessary for Jesus to be God in the clouds in order for him to lay out a moral way of life that included fairness, justice, kindness, faith, and the forgiveness of sins. His view of Jesus was extreme, but mostly because Jesus was a really good example of human behavior. And if you truly want to understand how that example has continued into this congregation's life, meet people who are seeking asylum at the Charlotte bus station with Pat and Doug Wall. Or collect scraps for Mary Nicholson's chickens at Feed NC. Or build a dog fence. The most glorious history of Unitarianism has always been in action. We cared for the wounded during the Civil War. We marched with women insisting on the right to vote and other equal standing with men under the law. We lost 2 of our number to the Klan during Dr. King's march from Selma to Montgomery. And their deaths are depicted in the movie called Selma. Unfortunately, the movie does not recognize either James Reeb or Viola Liuzzo as being UUs, but they were. And the tragic loss of their lives is found depicted in that movie. The list goes on and on. But for today, that's pretty close to 2 minutes. When you think of what it means to be Unitarian, think of Jefferson's admiration for Jesus, because he found in Jesus a good guy willing to do good work. And if you need a God to listen to your prayers, think of John Adams, a courageous political leader who dreamed up and made the dream come true to create what today we know as the United States of America.
Oh my goodness. All right. Today is such a pretty day. I actually was smiling and everybody was saying that my face was looked like it was going to split in 2 and they were wondering what was wrong with me. But I got to spend the morning out in my garden with this very special 12-year-old, and we gathered milkweed seeds out of all the little milkweed pods in our front yard. But it's a really special time of year. We had 80-degree weather, and we have the beautiful leaves that are changing. And I'm Autumn Weathers. I work here with, we have a goddess group that meets once a month, and I do some of the other education activities, but I get to work with all of the kids that come and visit us. And if you do not have kids in your life, I suggest that you go and find some, maybe join a family-centered hiking group, because I'm telling you, the things that you can get from being around kids, especially this time of the year, they're going to find every beautiful leaf as they're walking through the park. They're going to find all of the pine cones and all of the little flowers that are still, attracting all the bees and the butterflies and the moths. And yeah, it's always an experience to go out with kids in the woods, because they seem to find the sacred in everything. And so before I move on, we're going to be singing hymn 123. Hold on. But I wanted to share the lyrics from I don't know if you call it a hymn or a song, that I discovered a while ago. And it just seems to speak to what's going on right now. So the song is called Holy Now, and it's by Peter Mayer. And I'm just going to read to you the lyrics because they're kind of poem-like. So the lyric says, "When I was a boy each week, Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy word, consecrate the holy bread, everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in 2, and Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track because everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small. An even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare, at best, barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. I used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. I walk it with reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face, say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another morning come, say it's not a sacrament. I tell you, it can't be done. This morning outside I stood and saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. Made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out how things have changed since then, 'cause everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, in heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. I walk it with reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. So it's a beautiful song, but I love their lyrics because if you do look at things differently, and everything is a miracle. Today in our class, we're going to be talking about some of our similarities and differences, because we have built ourselves a team of people and we're working on our superhero abilities and developing all of our superhero skills. So if I have a volunteer or several volunteers, we're going to light our chalice and we're going to take it into our classroom. And as we do it, I'm going to ask that if you're able to stand and sing, we have the hymn in, it's number 123 in your hymn book. Do you have a volunteer? Anybody? You got up and go? Okay. Grab that.
Spirit of light, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. In the give light, shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of light, come to me, come to me.
And now please stay comfortably seated as Mike takes us with his music into a place of worship and contemplation.
Could have Eddie join me on this.
You two guys can come to my house and play music anytime.
What's for dinner?
That will be included, I can assure you. Sometimes I'll say to Gabriel, so-and-so's coming over, let's take them out. She'll say, we got plenty of food here. I'm a little bit embarrassed. There is. Were you trying to say that I should be more than a little bit embarrassed? As Sandy was introducing this message, she mentioned that I had put the Hubble Telescope and subatomic microscopes in the text, and I remembered that it's not there. But if you all will think about images you've seen from the Hubble Telescope and from atomic microscopes, you'll have a sense of what I'm talking about today, regardless of the fact that they don't get mentioned in the text. I also just have to say the lyrics that Autumn just read, Everything is Holy Now. Please look that song up on YouTube. It's, what's the guy's name? Peter Mayer. Yeah. Everything is Holy Now. You can find it like that on the internet, and it's just so beautiful. So here's another reason to notice the energy present in the present moment. Here's another reason to stop the hubbub and notice what is going on. Here it is. The dew on the leaves in the morning doesn't last. You got to get it while it's there. Today we will look at 5 religious traditions, and they're urging us to surrender our separate identities into the wider presence, however we define that presence, however we define what is present right here, right now. Let's take just a second and breathe together. Breathe for all the disasters that are going on in the world, for all the wars, for all the hunger, for all the fear, for all the hardship. One more deep breath. And for our friends who are hurting, who can't be with us today. Is this presence divine? Do we need to call it divine? Is it spirited energy? Is it light? This beautiful room lights up so well. Is it love? One exchange with a Buddhist friend went like this. You can learn something every day if you pay attention. And the Buddhist said, yeah, but what a price to pay. There are so many wonderful stories about how point of view changes the view. Emerson wrote, 2 men look out through prison bars. One sees stars. One sees mud. The other sees stars. I'd get this stuff better if I just read it. A New Age guru like Deepak Chopra reminds us constantly that whatever we think about, whatever we pay attention to, increases. So here are 5 religious traditions and how artificial intelligence answered the question. Here's the question. How does paying attention to the presence of spirited energy affect our ability to be kind, compassionate, generous, and empathetic? The 5 religious traditions are atheism, Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, and Christianity. Here's the atheist answer. In an atheistic worldview, we appreciate that life becomes simpler, more enjoyable, more intellectually stimulating, more compassionate when we direct our attention to the inherent wonder and interconnectedness of the natural world and the human experience. By recognizing the beauty of our shared existence and the importance of empathy and human connection, we cultivate a sense of fulfillment and care for one another. That's what came from ChatGPT's version of artificial intelligence. Now, you may wonder, why call atheism a religious tradition? Atheism rejects the belief in a separate, godlike creature who sits on a throne and answers some prayers and denies others. The film Bruce Almighty illustrates very well as the Jim Carrey character, Bruce, takes on the job of hearing prayers. The prayers come to him as yellow Post-it notes, and within an instant they fill his entire office, floor to ceiling, across every piece of furniture. It looks like a yellow blizzard. It is very difficult to imagine such a godlike creature surrounded by a blizzard of yellow Post-it notes. But look back at how atheists are encouraged to connect to nature and other people as they seek to be kind, compassionate, and empathetic. Nice work if you can get it. Buddhists, too, reject the God at 35,000 feet, the godlike creature on the throne. So how did AI find them answering the question of paying attention to the sacred energy in the present moment? What I like to call the presence to that which is present in the present. The Buddhist answer goes like this: we learn that life becomes simpler, more delightful, more enlightening, and more compassionate when we center our awareness on the interconnectedness and sacred energy that flows through all of existence. By practicing mindfulness and embracing the impermanence of all things, we uncover profound insights and a deeper sense of compassion for all sentient beings. Nice work if you can get it. The Buddhists, at least some of them, have the uncanny capacity to acknowledge the sacred in everything, even if they don't believe in an old man sitting on a throne. 2 down, 3 to go. What about the Jews? AI says, in the Jewish tradition, we understand that life becomes more serene, more joyous, more spiritually uplifting, and more compassionate as we focus on the presence of God's sacred energy in every aspect of nature and all life experiences. By observing the commandments and embracing the divine spark within each soul, we draw closer to God and bring healing to the world. Wow. How wonderful. Yes, it's very much like the first two, but Judaism is a monotheistic religion. The ancient Hebrews believed the old man in the clouds was so sacred, so utterly beyond description that they even refused to give him a name. He has the ability to be beyond the beyond, so high he was unapproachable. And yet, through a burning bush, through a pillar of fire, through clouds and voices heard by prophets, the Jewish traditions were revealing, and look at what an awareness of them does for good, for a good, faithful Jew. AI says, by observing the commandments and embracing the divine spark within each soul, we draw closer to God and bring healing to the world. How wonderful. How marvelous. Even if it does sound a little bit like the first two. I got to let the cat out of the bag. Susan Cameron read all 5 of these before I wrote this sermon. She said they're all saying the same thing. Rabbi David Cooper does trainings on Jewish mysticism. And he says he has Hindus and Buddhists and Muslims and Christians all attend his workshops. And he said about 5 minutes into each workshop, everybody in the room is nodding their heads. AI found this for the Hindus. Life becomes harmonious, more blissful, more spiritually enriching, and more compassionate when we attune ourselves to the sacred energy known as Brahman, present in all of nature and every facet of life. By recognizing the divinity within ourselves and all living beings, we find the path to liberation and unconditional love. Unconditional love. When my grandfather died, my mother, his daughter-in-law, said he loved everybody, and that's something you can't get in a general store that sells everything. As I delved into these first 4 reflections on ancient religions, that quote kept swimming back. This is the stuff of synchronicity. Carl Jung said, if you notice the synchronicity, you know you're on the right path. As I noticed the synchronicities in this reflection, I have to insist it is something you can't get in a general store that sells everything. This is extraordinary. The Hindus add the energy of Brahman to encourage them to notice the spirited energy in themselves, each other, and everywhere else. The Hindus even have a ritual where they take the fire in a worship service and they pass it between the Hindu god who may be in a statue in the temple, and they bring it back to themselves. And they pass it back to the statue and back to themselves. They are saying, you are the light, and I will carry the light. You are the light, and I will carry the light. I learned that from a UU minister. You just ain't no telling what you're going to learn if you pay attention. But what a price to pay. The Hindus were the leading lights that brought them one of the world's great civilizations, now numbering over 1 billion people and going through a political maelstrom not unlike our own. They live among some of the most beautiful temples, artwork, stories, and institutions in the whole world. And as a quick aside, we hear from UUs in India that our congregations are growing there because they are seen as safe places for Hindus and Muslims to be together. I did not put Islam on the list for the same reason I did not include the Jains, the Sikhs, the Zoroastrians, the Shintos of Japan, pagans, Wiccans, Celts, or the dozens of other religions that inhabit our planet. The comparisons would just have gone on, and doubtless you folks like to get out by 4 o'clock, regardless of what happened last Sunday. And by the way, I thought last Sunday was absolutely wonderful. If you want to give me a hard time about it, let me know, but we had a wonderful time last Sunday. I will tell you one story from Islam that I think illustrates how devout Muslims live their lives. Some leaders I have met and listened to point out that Islam is about absolute devotion to God. As it was explained to me, both Moses and Jesus were Muslims because of their absolute devotion to God. That's how you define a Muslim, someone who is absolutely devoted to God. A Muslim father was interviewed on the radio, and his son had died in combat. The interviewer asked him if he grieved the loss of his son. The father said, absolutely not, because I know he believed his service in the army was also service to God. He was totally and absolutely committed to service to God. And finally, there is Christianity, the assumed religion of so many of our neighbors, despite the fact that many of them believe their version of Christianity is better than the Christianity practiced by the folks down the road. AI says, this is sort of like Family Feud, isn't it? AI says. In the Christian faith, we discover that life becomes easier, more joyful, more inspirational, and more compassionate as we focus on recognizing the presence of God's sacred energy in all of nature and every experience of life. By aligning ourselves with God's divine plan and appreciating his creation, we find abundant blessings and the strength to navigate life's journeys. Woo! Wouldn't we all like to have the strength to navigate life's journeys? A number of you know that I've been sick this week, and I had to confess to some of you earlier that when I get well after having been sick, I walk around for a day or two thinking, now, is this what well feels like? So far, so good. So far, I have the strength to navigate life's journeys. The old boy himself, Jesus of Nazareth, the most artistically depicted, the most musically celebrated person to walk the earth, said, if it were not so, I would have told you. Abundant blessings and the strength to navigate life's journeys. Unitarian Universalism grew out of Christianity. We would like to think we've hung on to the best of it. We think we are loving and forgiving and willing to serve the poor, willing to work for a better world, all of which is very much Christianity at its best. It's also every other world religion at its best. A good Jew, a good Muslim, a good Buddhist, a good Hindu, or a good atheist would all hope to be loving and kind and of service to the poor and working to build a better world. Goodness, fairness, kindness are all stitched into the major world religions, and they might give us a little hope as the tragedies that are surrounding us today are creating unimaginable heartache and despair. Pay attention. Notice the spirited energy in the world around us. We are not the arbitrary crops of random seeds. Something is afoot in the present moment that can bring our awareness to our deeply mystical and affirming life. Deeply mystical and affirming. Some of you are looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about, and that's okay. We do not have to believe in a separate God to experience God-like presence. We do not have to believe in spirit to have our spirits lifted by loving kindness, mutual respect, dignity, self-care, basic goodness. In fact, we don't have to believe in anything to practice attention to the presence which is present in the present moment. Our own heartbeats, and the realization that we are surrounded by other people whose hearts are beating. And breathe into our lungs, remembering that we are surrounded by people whose lungs are also breathing. We might even begin to pay attention to the fact that everybody has the ability to pay attention. And in that moment, maybe we could look for common good, places where our paying attention intersects, common ground, intersections, heartbeats and breath and mutual respect and dignity and kindness. Who knows? We might even begin to create the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Now let's talk about what's on our minds. Madam President, you come help me. Yeah, I needed to put one in.
Well, this is the best part of the service. You get to comment, ask questions, suggest things Pat might have said or shouldn't have said. It's everybody's big chance.
You can even talk about the Hubble Telescope if you want to.
I have a question.
Okay?
What purpose does complicated dogma play in making someone have a better life, to be kinder, to do more to make the world a better place?
It's a great question. I know the answer that my detractors would give is that complicated dogma is necessary because we're all sinful. We're all born in sin and corrupted. And if we don't have very strict rules and regulations, we're going to mess up. When I was at my son's wedding this summer, one of my cousins found out that I'm a Unitarian Universalist. And she said, "What do you believe?" And I said, "Well, in a thumbnail, one of the things we believe is that there is no hell. There's no eternal damnation." And she said, "Do you mean that means people can just do whatever they're going to do?" And I said, "Well, they're going to anyway." And as I was saying that, my retired Presbyterian minister cousin came walking up, and somebody turned to her and said, "This guy believes that there's no hell, and without the belief in hell, aren't we just going to have a lot of murders?" And she said, "Well, it hasn't stopped very many murders so far." So that is how I would explain the need for complicated dogma from the other side. And I guess we don't have a lot of complicated dogma, do we? Okay, good. That gets me off the hook. What else? Joe, come up here, because the people at home, they can't see you and they can't hear you. I'm sorry, this is television production.
I'm not that age. I can't keep it. This sort of piggybacked on what you just said, because when you were speaking about the man who lost his son,
Right.
because his son was completely devoted to God, I couldn't help but think that crosses into dangerous territory then.
Oh,
if you're so devoted to an idea, really, because, whether you believe or not, none of us can prove it, right? So you're so devoted to an idea that you're willing to let go of the humanity in the moment that you're in battle with another human being. And I find that very dangerous about all religions.
And it's very dangerous about all armies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About all conflict. I mean,
About all conflict,
sides,
right, yeah.
all sides are wrong, because we should embrace the humanity that's within all of us and find peaceful answers.
Right.
But we don't.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah. This microphone is the one for the TV production, and this one is for the room. So if you
Okay.
kind of stand between them.
I think they'll hear me anyway. With regards to one giving their life for what they believe, isn't it the same for somebody who is very comfortable with what they're doing? And you say, you could get killed doing that. Well, the joy of doing that is enough that I've lived my life in a happy way, and I'll accept that. The devotion to serving, particularly when it comes to war, if you're going to fight for something that you truly believe in, that you feel is worth giving your life for, because without it, what's your life worth? Then, it's getting comfortable. It's getting to that point where you say, okay, hey, this is worth it. This is, I believe strongly enough in, this is meaningful enough to my existence that I can give my life.
So yes, I just want to say, I wasn't trying to say that there aren't ideas that are worth fighting for, because there are. But so often we send people to war, young men who may or may not, if we put that much energy into finding peace, then it would be more, I don't know.
You think about war for oil, war for profit, war for simple power.
Right, yeah, all of them. Those are all like religion.
I think to really see an illustration of what Greg was just talking about, again, if you'll go to YouTube and search for Dr. King's speech the night before he died, it's uncanny. It's uncanny. The man had to have known that he was hours away from death. And he says, I may not get there with you. But he basically said the same thing. What we are working for, what we're hoping for, what we're building is worth my life. And he said, I'd love to see my children grow up, but if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. Woo, that gives me a chill. Others?
My question is,
Come over here. This is for the folks at home.
Oh, okay.
This one is for the folks at home.
my question is, why are there wars in the names of religion? And what good does religion do if it causes you to fight with other people? And I have a problem with all organized religions because as much as they claim to be loving and forgiving and all-encompassing, they don't like each other. And that's why we have wars, because everybody thinks theirs is better than somebody else's and that everyone should think like them. So I say, aside from Unitarians who basically accept everybody, I don't believe in religion when it causes war.
The Unitarian Universalists have probably the most unusual stance toward military service of any organized religion. The Quakers banned. They said, no, you're not going to be a Quaker. You're not going to fight in a war. The Amish, a number of various Christian sects. Unitarian Universalism, we will defend the right of a young person to resist the draft. In fact, many draft resistors during Vietnam went across the Canadian border with the aid of Unitarian Universalist congregations. But if a Unitarian Universalist young person decides to serve in the military, we support them too. We actually have a book of prayer for UUs who are in service in the military. And the military loves us because we will conduct a worship service in any religion. So there are a number of UUs who serve as chaplains in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. Anybody else? Okay. Much love to all.
And now the challenge is for Mike Alec to reflect to us with his music what we've just heard.
You got a D harmonica? Yes. Is
Well-
there any harmonica you don't have?
It was cold, but my friend just tuned his guitar into E flat. And
Oh, that's just upset.
I don't have it.
That's crazy talk. You could do a Grateful Dead song,
Oh, righty.
because Eddie suggested it. I'm not sure that, I know I learned it from them, but I'm not sure if it's not more traditional. I know you right, gonna miss me when I'm gone. I know you right, gonna miss me when I'm gone. Gonna miss your baby rolling in your arms. Lay down last night, Lord, I could not take my rest. Lay down last night, I could not take my rest. My mind was wandering like a wild geese in the west.
Wish I was daylight on a northbound train. I wish I was a daylight on a northbound train. I'd shine my light through the cold Colorado rain. The sun will shine in my back door someday. The sun will shine in my back door someday. March winds will come and blow our troubles away. I know you right are gonna miss me when I'm gone, gone, gone. I know you right are gonna miss me when I'm gone. Gonna miss your baby and rolling in your arms.
That was merely fabulous. This fellowship is important to us all. The contributions we make today allow us to sustain and grow our congregation and to reach out to our community both nearby and in the larger world. Your giving affirms our commitment to each other and to the community. With grateful hearts, we receive these gifts. May they encourage us to live lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. We are also grateful for the gifts of thoughtful service so many of you have given to make this congregation a real community, one that learns about goddesses, goes to movies, builds dog fences, and serves people whose mealtimes are not at all guaranteed. We also appreciate all the work it takes to publicize and create a Sunday service, including hauling chairs around and recording the whole thing. Take a look at the announcements in your order of service with me for a minute. The first thing is we have an update on yesterday's build, which was for 4 dogs. It was a wonderful success until these sweet pit bulls decided they loved the crew that built them a fence and they wanted to go home with them. The building crew watched as they easily climbed over the fence.
I'm coming with you.
Our post setters will be returning this Thursday to add 3 feet to the top of the fence. And the next build, this part's in your order of service, is on November 18th at 9 a.m. in Iron Station for a man who is deaf and he is also unable to speak, but he knows how to make his dog happy and safe. Just a couple more. We are a very organized congregation, really, we are. Every year we prepare a budget for the year ahead. Pretty much all of that budget depends on what our members and also our wonderful friends pledge to give the congregation at some point during the coming year. Many of you have already given your pledge information to our treasurer, Agnes Fiore. If you haven't, the really practical deadline is next Sunday. You can drop the pledge form in the collection basket. You can shoot her an email, whatever works for you. That way, like organized people, we'll have actual data on which to base the budget for next year. One minor thing, sort of minor, we actually have a lending library, a rather nice collection of UU and other books that we are happy to lend out to anybody who'd like to read them. There are a bunch of them on the table in the entryway. It's a very formal system. Put today's date, sketch in the name of the book and your name, and then take the book home with you. They're really a bunch of interesting titles, and we hope everybody could enjoy them. This is a plea for volunteers, as in case you want to stop listening here. If you are a person who knows or might want to learn or polish your skills at how to update a website, not create a website, just update it, or publish a newsletter, or market a small but wonderful congregation to its community, we would love to hear from you. Just contact me whatever way works best for you. And notice that these three, at least listed volunteer opportunities, are listed with an or between each one. Just pick any one that might work for you. I think that's all of our announcements.
Just mentioned you were going to go to a fusion bowl today.
Okay. Yeah, we often go out to a meal after the service, and today it's Fusion Bowl, the one in Cornelius, not the one in Mooresville. See Linda or Marge Flowers if you're not sure where it is, but everybody is welcome to join in. Our closing song today is gonna lay down my sword and shield. It's number 162. Please stand as you're willing and able.
Go lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Go lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Ain't gonna learn no more, ain't gonna learn no more, ain't gonna learn no more. Ain't gonna study no more, ain't gonna study no more, ain't gonna study no more. Gonna lay down my burden, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Down by the riverside, gonna lay down my sword and shield. Down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more. Ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more. Gonna shake hands around the world, everywhere I roam, everywhere I roam, everywhere I roam. Hands around the world, everywhere I roam, everywhere I roam. Ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more. Ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more, ain't gonna study more no more.
Yeah.
The more more traditional the song, the better the singing. And now Reverend Pat will give us his closing words.
You heard me reference Thomas Jefferson earlier. We claim him. I'm not sure he would have claimed us, but we do claim him. And as much as he admired Jesus, he did go through the New Testament with a penknife and cut out everything that he thought wasn't true. Created the Jefferson Bible, which dear Jim Arnold has presented me with this morning. And I will commit to memory and have it ready soon for recitation. Jefferson said, the clergy converted the simple teachings of Jesus into an engine for enslaving mankind and adulterated by artificial constructions into a contrivance to filch wealth and power to themselves. These clergy, in fact, constitute the real Antichrist.
That's a lot to take home and think on. Please say with me the words in your order of service as I extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of community. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
Shalom.